أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you for joining us for this second session of our course, at least 697 benefits of Sahar and Suhūr in the month of Ramadan. Yesterday, we defined the word Sahar and Suhūr. Sahar is the time, the dawn time, right? We gave two verses of Quran in which the word Sahar comes. In other words, Ashar comes. Sahar is singular, Ashar is plural. It means dawn. But as we said, our scholars say it is the last 1/3 part of the night. So if the night is short, for example, let's say just 6 hours, then the last 2 hours is Sahar. If the night is longer, like in winter, say for example 12 hours, then the last 4 hours is Sahar. That is what Sahar. Suhur is what we take at the time of Sahar, especially with the intention of fasting. We said it was Prophet's practice that he would take water and date at least, or water and raisins. So keep in mind that it is important that we at least take something during Sahar. Now, I know there are people who have difficulty waking up in the morning. I know people who take their Sahar, Suhur before, for example, sleeping. They will just have some food and go to sleep and then wake up for Fajr prayer. Now they wake up for Fajr prayer because they've taken already their food, they go to sleep and they have to go to work. What they do, they wake up sometimes just before Qaza of the Fajr prayers. So in the process, what they do, they miss out on Sahar and Suhur. They also miss out on saying the prayers early at awwal time, Fajr times. They miss out that. And then they say the prayers just before Qaza time, which is not good, which is not a good practice. Now, I know the argument is that we have a long day at work or at business, right? Or maybe, for example, they're doing construction work, they're doing work which we know involves commuting a lot. All that is understandable, but human body is such that we have to train itself. Subhanallah, the ability, for example, this is the best example. We live in Canada, right? Or America or Europe, because I know people who are also from Africa. So those who live in Canada and in Europe, they live in such a cold weather. So if you were to go tell your colleagues, your friends, relatives in Africa or South America that I live in Canada and these are the temperatures, they would not believe it. So how can you survive? But what has happened is that, yes, we do wear winter clothes and take due precaution. But besides that, even in spite of wearing winter clothes and all the precautions we do, it is the body which has a claim, which is in such a way that we have made our body such a way that it can, it can take those temperatures. In the same way that for month of Ramadan, what we have to do is that we have to train ourselves that we are awake at the time of Fajr prayers, sometime earlier, so we can take at least water or date or raisin, right? Minimum. Of course, if you have a full food, which is well better, and then say your Fajr prayers and then go to rest. And then after that, go to work. That should be there. Or if that is not possible for any reason, then not try to, for example, take a break. Tell your employers or whatever it is that I will report a little late at work, but then I'll stay a little late. Or I won't break for lunch because I don't need it other than prayers. But those things can be worked out. But to miss out on Sahar and Suhur and Fajr is not the best idea. It should be the last resort. Okay, so keep that in mind. Then, of course, we also discussed yesterday that the Prophet used to increase his prayers, salat, in the month of Ramadan. The sixth Imam says, I too also used to do that. And you also then advises us, the Shias, you should do that. So today what we are going to discuss is that there are so many salat for the month of Ramadan, which we will be discussing inshallah in future sessions. But there is one salat which we should not at all abandon. We should not leave that salat. And I know people are there, mashallah, who do this throughout the year, which is fine. But then there are people who miss out this also in the month of Ramadan, which is the last thing you should do. So we look at these verses of Quran, verse number 16 and 17 of Surah Al Imran, which is Surah number 3. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذين يقولون ربنا إننا آمنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وقنا عذاب النار. Now, Alladina, Allah Tabatai says, now I'm referring to volume number 5 of Al Mizan in translation. Okay, in translation, there are 40 volumes in English translation. So this is part 5, I'm referring to them. Allah Tabatai says that these Alladina who have referred are people who are muttaqeen, right? Alladina yakuluna rabbana innana amanna. They say, oh Allah, we have believed. فاغفر لنا, so forgive us. فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا, forgive our sins. وقنا عذاب النار. And now after that, Quran is talking about their qualities. That was just their prayer. But what are the qualities of muttaqin? So Namatubadbai says that in these verses there are 5 qualities of the muttaqin, which is quite interesting. And the last is relevant to our discussion. As-sabirina, was-sadiqina, wal-qanitina, wal-munfikina, wal-mustakfirina bil-ashar. First, of course, they are patient, of sabirina. Sabr is a very important quality, and in fact, a lot can be said about that. But enough for our discussion is that when Allah says, "Wasta'inu bis-sabri was-salat," right? In Quran says that you seek help of Allah through sabr and prayers. So some of the interpreters of this verse, they say here sabr refers to even fasting. Because when we are fasting, there is a lot of patience done. Not only that we don't drink and we don't, for example, eat, right? But we see others drinking, others eating, even then we don't do it. But more than that, people, for example, sometimes argue, sometimes they swear, sometimes they gossip. But a person who is fasting would just maintain silence. Even if somebody would to swear at him, he would say, yes, I know. I can get back to you. I can respond back to you, but I'm fasting. So I'm not going to do that. No, I'll leave it. No. So sabr has a lot of course, discussion in Islamic literature, but it is a very, very good quality to have sabr. The Quran is filled with verses on the benefits of sabr. Was sadiqina, right? And the truthful. There is no way that we can lie anytime, but more so when we are fasting. No. As-sadiqina, they are truthful. Whatever they say is truthful. There is no question of lying or cheating or deceiving. You can see just now in the media, whenever there is war, there is so much lying taking place, right? People just say things which are not even there. And they try to disseminate and spread those lies until that time the people believe that this is reality, right? Was-sadiqina. Wal-qanitina. Then to obedient. It is very important that we are one of the biggest thing or qualities of Muslim that is obedient to Islamic laws, Islamic rules, right? To the pleasure of Allah. So we are obedient. Wal-qanitina. And then wal-munfikina. Those that give charity. And of course, all of us give charity throughout the year, but more so we do in the month of Ramadan, because it is the month of empathy. We try to empathize with people who do not have. So we don't only empathize by fasting and experiencing the hunger and thirst, but we also share our wealth, right? So that is empathy which we do with this now. So it is very important. Keep in mind that as much charity you can give in this month of Ramadan, do that. So much so that, for example, let's say that you can afford to give, say, for example, $300, right, per month. So this month you do even more, for example, and said that even your portion of giving charity in Shawwal can be given out in Ramadan. Do that, no? So in Shawwal, for example, then you can just give basic charity, sadaqah, a few dollars, but try to do that in Ramadan. There's a lot of benefits. It's the month of empathy, right? But then it says, well, mustaghfirina bil ashar. And then they do istighfar, seek forgiveness at the time of dawn. So earlier you can see الَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا إِنَّنَا آمَنَّا فَاغْفِرْ لَنَا. Oh Allah, the fact that you forgot what you believed, forgive us. But now there's a special mention of istighfar at the time of ashar, at the time of dawns, right? So I looked at Al-Mizan, again the same part, because it comes in this volume number 5, whereby Allah Matwai has mentioned three hadiths here. Remember I said yesterday that this person was very careful. He was almost, reached the stage of ijtihad. He could have become mujtahid. He was so smart and able person that our teachers used to say that he could easily become mujtahid. But then when he wanted to take that route, he realized that the tafsir of Quran, which is supposed to be, comprehensive, is missing. There are tafsir, but something which is really comprehensive, which captures everything. So he started working on it. It was such a good work. He spent 20 years just studying, 20 years writing. My teachers used to say that Allama, at that time, Ayatollah Qi Marhum was living when the first tafsir came out, first volume of Al-Mizan. And when it reached him, he also started tafsir of Ayatollah Qi, tafsir Bayan, right? He started, you can get first volume, but then after that, he stopped doing that. Why? When he saw that Al-Mizan, he said that there is no need for me to duplicate. Already something which I was thinking of, a comprehensive tafsir has come out. So, but whatever hadith he has included in Tafsir Mizan is something he has done research. He's very careful, right? So he says, asking for forgiveness before dawn, it makes it necessary for the servant to pray in the last hours of night in order that he may ask for forgiveness in the prayer. Do you see the language? He says it is necessary for the servant to pray in the last hours of night. So last hours of night, of course, is just Fajr time and before sunrise, right? So before sunrise, there's the last hours of night, especially. So you ask forgiveness. Tradition said that it refers to the non-obligatory prayers after midnight, and to the asking of forgiveness, al-kunut. So it's not only that you say midnight prayer after midnight prayer, that means the tahajjud salah, but then in kunut, you seek forgiveness. God has pointed to it as a way that leads man to his Lord, right? So, Maqam Mahmud, you can see that, that will lead you to your Lord. Then the 61, Jabir Sadiq Islam says, whoever recites 70 times while he is in standing posture in his prayer of al-watr. So al-watr is that one rakat of tahajjud. Both the al-watr or witr, both are correct. No, I've checked in the dictionaries, both words are used, watr or witr. His prayer of watr, I seek forgiveness from God and return to him. That means astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh, right? That is the translation. I seek forgiveness from God and return to him. Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. And continues to do so regularly for at least a year. God writes him among those who ask for forgiveness before dawn and is bound to get forgiveness from God the High. So, in fact, this hadith appears in Mullah Hazul Faqih and Al-Qisar. Al-Matwatwa is taken from these two. Both of these books have been compiled by Sheikh al-Saduq, right? Sheikh al-Saduq was a great scholar. In fact, he is such a great scholar that I think he's buried in Qum, if I'm mistaken. But where he was buried, one day around his grave, there was some construction taking place, right? And because of construction, those who were trying to construct, they by mistake, they opened his grave. They knew that there's a grave there, but no, they thought that maybe it may be down there or some other place. By mistake, his grave was opened, right? And they saw that after hundreds of years, his body was so fresh. They could not believe, right? This is Sheikh Saduq, a great scholar. So he says, quoting from the sixth Imam, that we should have this particular practice at least for a year. You can see regularly for at least a year. I know, of course, he's at least this you can see is in a parenthesis is just trying to clarify that it doesn't mean that, for example, a person does 1 year, then it just stops. So let us, in the month of Ramadan, we start this practice if we are not doing it, and then pray to Allah to give us the strength to continue. Whilst in Qunut we say 100 times, Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu, right? It is, seek forgiveness for continuous, yeah. And we do this, right? Our forgiveness, and he's bound to get forgiveness from God, the High, right? So, and among those who ask for it, not only that, first of all, Allah will write us amongst those. That means Mustaqfina bil Ashar. That will be will be that list, and then he's bound to get forgiveness from Allah, the High. Then Allah Ta'ala says something quite interesting. That's why I thought that I'll share with you. He says, rational arguments prove that the pleasure a man gets from his existence is the greatest, right? There are so many pleasures a person has. For example, food, sexual relations, all these are pleasures which human beings try to have. But Ramadan says, rational arguments prove that the pleasure a man gets from his own existence is the greatest, at least he's living, right? Other proofs show that the pleasure he feels from the existence of his Lord is even greater than that. So after realizing that I am there, being, right? I'm alive, right? And then I get connected to Allah. So the fact that he feels from the existence of the Lord, that the Lord is there, he is taking care of me, he provides me, he knows my difficulties, he knows my shortcomings, right? Even then he oversees. So once a person reaches that stage whereby you can connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so he says that is even greater than that. That means, subhanallah, just the existence of his Lord is greater than the even pleasure of your own existence. What am I? As far as my Lord is there, he will take care of me. Not only, for example, people sometimes have to die. Sometimes people die early, people sometimes die or late, right? So those, for example, who get sick at early age, and the doctor says that, okay, you're going to die. The person, for example, is just in his 30s and 40s, his biggest worry will be that, oh, I'm going to die. Who will take care of my family? Who will take care of my wife? Who will take care of my affairs, right? But then the fact that he knows that my Lord is there, right? The greatest, provider and nourisher, and will take care of it. So that is even greater about pleasure. And there are numerous traditions saying that the bliss a servant enjoys from being near to God is the greatest of all the pleasure. So do you see, there are 3 stages. Before that, of course, before this sentence, he talks about the stages, for example, the physical pleasure of food or of sex and all those things. But after that, he says the pleasure of person's own existence. Then he talks the pleasure of Lord being there. And then, in fact, the pleasure of being near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, to be near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is when a person wakes up early in the morning, right, before Fajr times, and says Tahajjud Salat. That is to take you near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As you can see earlier, the 60th Imam says that by seeking forgiveness, he's bound to get forgiveness from God. Right? So this is it, that once you get forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll be near, because that is what is the whole idea. Seeking forgiveness is because when we sin, or do things which are makruh also, right? Anything which are disliked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we were to do that, it distances us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But being forgiven, we get near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the greatest pleasure. So keep in mind that let us all make a point of getting near to Allah. This is the really important thing. And Ramadan is the best thing. So, and then, of course, he's quoting another hadith from the 6th Imam. Interestingly, he's quoting this hadith, but he also gives the reference, like with the way he gave a reference to al-Faqih. I did not write a reference here, but the reference he gives is Durr Mansur. Durr Mansur is a book written by Suhūr, who was a Sunni scholar. So this Sunni scholar says, whoever prays a part of the night, quoting the 6th Imam, then ask for forgiveness at the end of the night, he'll be written among those who ask for forgiveness. In other words, those we can be, for example, patient, we can be truthful, we can be obedient, we can be charitable, but then to be considered as pleading for the forgiveness of dawn, we need to actually pray. That means you do, for example, 10 rakats, right? And then you do witr and ask forgiveness in kunut, then you will be written amongst those who are mustaghfirun bil ashar. So of course, inshallah, we will discuss, as we said, that Prophet used to do extra prayers in the month of Ramadan. But brothers and sisters, the most important thing in Ramadan, besides, of course, fasting is wajib and wajib prayers, these are wajibat, right? And then comes, for example, even charity we discussed. But don't forget that of all the prayers, of sunnah prayers we are talking about, now, for example, our Sunni brothers are very big on Taraweeh, very huge, it's a big deal for them, right? We will discuss about it also, inshallah, but they're huge on that. But compared to the Taraweeh or any other prayers which are there, just don't abandon your tahajjud salah, your namaz al-shab. That is must. In the month of Ramadan, I know in the morning you wake up, so there's limited time. You want to, or sisters, for example, they have to take care of the kitchen, so they have to go and make a sahri for the family. It takes time. Don't forget this, it's a time consuming, you know. And then we have to get down, say our sahri, we have to say fajr prayers. So you are limited time. In the process, what happens? In the process, tahajjud salat is then sacrificed, or we shorten it, or we not. But no, let us plan in such a way that we do not miss out on tahajjud. And in case if you feel, for example, some of us feel that you have to wake up in the morning, make sahari, and then wake up the children, for example, and all those things also is on my shoulder, then I will not have time for tahajjud. Then okay, before sleeping you can start. I tell Allah, Sistani, may Allah give him good health and long life. He said that after Isha namaz also you can say tahajjud salah. So I always advise people that many people who come to the masajid, to the center, and once you attend the programs there, after I've seen many people after what majlis, or after lecture, after there, they are still there 10, 15, 20 minutes gossiping, waiting for family to come, right, to join them, then they go home. The best thing I would do, if, for example, if your spouse delays you, whatever the reason is, until that time that you go to the car, and go, use that time, the 20, 25 minutes, 15 minutes you have got, just renew wudu, go to masjid, and say tahajjud, start tahajjud salat automatically. Inshallah, we will just share with you that at least do the 4 rakat. At least do that 4 rakat. The advantage is that it's already late after Isha, because Isha was done earlier, then we opened the fast, then after we opened the fast, there was a darsa or Quran Khani lecture, another lecture, and then ziyarat. So by the time Isha had finished and the program finished, you are talking of almost 2 hours, right? So already that time is passed by. Now you are in masjid already. Start the process of tahajjud salat 4 rakat there, right? And then, inshallah, at least 4 rakat, not in 4 rakat, at least 4 rakat, do that. And then, of course, the remaining you can do in the morning. But don't miss out on tahajjud salat. Don't miss out namaz al-shab, especially in the month of Ramadan. This is the most important sunnat namaz after wajib prayers. No, that this should not be left out, because it connects with the start of the fasting. It is Sahar, and there is special mention in the Quran, right? Any questions? Any clarifications? Yes, let me see if there are any questions in the chat box. Yes, the best time of tahajjud is just before Fajr. So let's say if tahajjud takes, if you go for a long method, which we have in our book, Tahajjud Salat, right? If you have this book, Tahajjud Salat, the long method takes about 27 to, the longest method, of course, takes about 1 hour. But minimum, for example, 27 minutes, right? So for you, if it's 1 hour, then 1 hour before Fajr is the best time, right? But Ayatollah Sistani says that, no, you can even do after Isha prayers, no? And of course, the best is before Tahajjud, before Fajr, The second best is after midnight and before tahajjud, right? Third best is after Isha, anytime. No? So you can just after Isha namaz, you can just say your tahajjud. So as I said, of course, our program finishes 2 hours after Isha namaz. So there is a lot of time. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you again for joining us. It was good to see people there on time, so we start on time. Inshallah, keep us in your du'as. We will see you tomorrow morning. وصلى الله على الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد